My name is Wilma Subra. I'm president of SUBRA Company, which is located in New Iberia, Louisiana, and I provide technical assistance to community groups dealing with environmental and human health issues. And I've had SUBRA Company since 1981, and I also provide technical assistance to Louisiana Environmental Action Network and all of the organizations that are under the umbrella group of LEAN. In the last 5 years, which is the time period that the oil spill occurred, this area has been heavily impacted as far as the environment and also as far as the fishing community. We have a large Vietnamese fishing community in the coastal areas here in Iberia and Vermilion Parish, and doing a lot of work with those Vietnamese fishers, it became very obvious that they were really stressed. They lost their income. A lot of them lost their boats because they couldn't make the payments on their boats. And when you do a survey of them, they're all having huge health impacts by being exposed. Either they were cleanup workers or they were physically along the coastal areas when the crude was so much in the environment, and they were exposed to the air emissions and also contact with the crude. And they are estimating that it will take at least 20 to 30 years for the environment in this area to recover from the BP disaster. And so as a result, the fishing quantity of harvestable seafood is way down, and they're having a really difficult time of making it from day to day. So as a result of the BP disaster, crude oil flowed out of the well for a long time, and the well was not stopped as far as the flowing of the crude until July of 2010. Just a short time later, the end of July of 2010, BP announced that all the crude oil was gone. Immediately, the fishing community rose up and said, that's not true. That's not what's going on out there. So we started collecting samples of water and sediment and shrimp, crabs, oysters, and finfish to document that the crude oil was still there and that those seafood species were being impacted by the crude. It was bioaccumulating in the seafood. And so we started in very early of August of 2010 collecting those specimens, and they had elevated levels. Now, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and a number of agencies established a specific criteria for just the BP spill, which minimized the huge quantity of seafood that people along the Gulf consume. And it wasn't appropriate for the people who were actually consuming the seafood. So we were finding concentrations in excess of their standard, but they consistently said that all of the seafood they were testing met their standards. And it went so far as they were making statements that there weren't any detectable concentrations in the seafood. So I was sending emails to them and saying, your own data shows that you're finding detectable concentrations, however, below the standard you established. So they changed the message and they said, we're finding seafood with detectable concentrations, but below the standards. Since that time, anybody in the fishing community that you talk to will tell you about how bad structurally the seafood is. It has, like crude oil in the gills, and it has, the crabs have holes in them and the shells and all. And so these fishermen are going out there and harvesting in their nets and pulling up seafood covered with the crude oil. So they want to know, is this appropriate for them to, one, take home and feed their families, and two, sell on the commercial market? And they have been very fearful of trying to sell it because they don't want to harm anyone with this. So as a result, there's less quantity out there, and the quality is very diminished. It's been 5 years, and we're still having tar balls and mats of crude oil wash on shore every single day, And we're still having the fishermen pull in their nets and have quantities of the BP crude mixed in with the seafood.